the next item on the agenda, I believe we're at item C8. C8 at this time. We're going to open up item C8 and D9 and E10 concurrently. We moved the one item this morning from consent.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the next three items is a summary of the three applications. So we're going to open all three together. They're listed as C8, D9, and E10 on your agenda. C8 is the Lake Reams Neighborhood PD substantial change, which will also be considered with consent item G4, which is an associated adequate public facilities agreement for right-of-way that was pulled from the consent agenda. D9 is the Lake Reams Neighborhood PD Develop Co. Reams Road Preliminary Subdivision Plan, and E10 is the associated conservation area impact permit, which will be presented by Liz Johnson with our Environmental Protection Division. After these presentations, I'll summarize all of the actions, and we can open all three hearings at one time for public testimony. So first up, we'll begin with C8. This is the Lake Reams Neighborhood PD substantial change. The affected property is 306.89 gross acres, much of which is undevelopable wetland. It's located east of the intersection of Reams Road and Paquette Road in Horizon West. The request is to modify the wetland boundary, increase the parcel 25 acreage from 11.3 acres to 26.3 acres, change the land use from upland greenbelt wetlands to state district to allow for 57 detached residential units through the use of 26 transfer of development rights credits from PD parcel 12 or 23. I'll note there's also one waiver from Orange County Code requested, which is to reduce the minimum lot size from 85 feet down to 60 feet. This is a future land use map designation of the property, designated as an estate district, as well as a combination of wetlands. This was approved by the board back in 2015, and I'll get into the history on the future land use map designation a little bit later in my presentation. And it's zone PD. It's part of the larger Lake Reams Neighborhood PD, which is over 1,000 acres in size. This is the aerial. You can see the wetland system immediately to the east. And this is the proposed land use plan. You can see some wetland impacts on the northern lobe of parcel 25, which is redesignated as an estate district with 57 units assigned to it. And then parcel 23, which is located on the south, remains as an upland greenbelt and is used for compensating storage. So here's a little bit of history. This project was first submitted as a future land use map amendment back in 2015, and the request at that time was to amend the designation from greenbelt to village home district, which allows up to 6 dwelling units per acre. And the total development program was 284 single-family units, and it was located both on the northern parcel and the southern parcel. We did a couple of community meetings. The first was in May of 2015. We did a second one in June of 2015, knowing the controversial nature and the response that we received at the first community meeting. And at that time, at the second community meeting, the applicant stood up in front of the group and reduced the request to a state district and dropped the unit count down to 75 units on the northern property only. That was a commitment that was made by the applicant. Went to LPA, P&Z, and then ultimately in July, the BCC transmitted only the northern property to the state, so the southern property remained greenbelt. And in November, the board adopted that future land use map designation on a state district just for the northern portion. They then submitted this change determination request in October of 2015. So they submitted it prior to the adoption, but it didn't necessarily run concurrent. It was just for the north of the site. This project went dormant for a couple of years, came back to DRC in August of 2018. DRC ultimately ended up recommending approval. It was last in front of the board in August of 2019, where the board remanded the project back to DRC and requested the applicant reduce the unit count, move the stormwater to the north, and reduce some of the wetland impacts that were proposed on the associated PSP. In March that should read 2020, DRC recommends approval for 57 units, and that brings us to today's hearing. So the recommended action for the land use plan is to make a finding of consistency and approve the substantial change subject to the DRC recommendation and the staff report, including the approval of consent item G4, which is the APF agreement, and that takes us into the PSP, same subject property, same acreage. The request is to subdivide a portion of the overall subject property to allow for 57 single-family detached dwelling units and associated infrastructure. This request also has one waiver from Orange County Code, which is to allow the compensating storage tract to access through an HOA park tract in lieu of having fee simple access to a public street. This is the preliminary subdivision plan, and as if you recall, last time it was in front of the board back in August, it included 74 units, and those were all located on the north of the site. And there was a large pipe through the wetland system to the south, which went to a proposed stormwater pond to serve the project. Staff was not supportive of that request, not that layout or the wetland impact. So the staff recommendation was denial of that preliminary subdivision plan and the associated impact permit at that time. During the August hearing, the board remanded the PSP back to DRC with the direction to move the ponds to the north, which they've done. They've also eliminated the large pipe to the south and reduced the unit count. So the applicant complied with those requests, and now the southern parcel is just used for compensating storage. So the recommended action would be to make a finding of consistency with the comprehensive plan and approve the Lake Reams Neighborhood PD Developed Co. Reams Road PSP, subject to the conditions under the DRC recommendation in the staff report. And at this time, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Liz Johnson with our Environmental Protection Division, and she'll present the associated conservation area impact permit.
Thank you, Eric. I'll be presenting the CAI for Develop Co. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Here's an aerial of the subject property. You've seen it before. Eric showed you, so I won't linger too long on that. This particular slide, I thought it was important to show you the project site in context with the larger area. And so the wetland that we're talking about today starts up by Lake Spear to the north and flows southeast from Lake Spear to Reedy Creek. This slide shows the upland acreage and the wetland acreage on the site. There's two upland pockets, one in the north and one in the south. They're shown in yellow. The green color shows the wetlands. Wetland 1, which is the main wetland system, is a high-quality Class 1 cypress pond pine system. Wetlands 1A, 1B, and 2 protrude into the northern upland pocket and range from moderately low quality to moderately high quality. As part of the permit application review process, the applicant conducted wildlife evaluation and did not observe imperiled species. Staff confirmed these findings during the multiple site visits over the multiple years as part of the application process. So a little summary table on the left-hand side, just showing the wetland numbers and the classification. Here's a couple representative photos showing the areas that are proposed for impact, which I'll discuss in a minute. So Eric touched on this a little bit earlier. There was a conservation area impact permit that was submitted by the applicant and back in April. And the proposal was to impact Class 1 and Class 2 wetlands in order to construct portions of a residential subdivision and a conveyance pipe / access road for a stormwater pond. This diagram shows the impact locations. You can see 74 lots, the access road, and the stormwater pond moving from north to south. And the impacts are circled in red. The Class 1 wetland fingers that are protruding into the northern upland pocket, the Class 2 wetland there on the east side of the pocket, and then, of course, the Class 1 impact for the access road and to the stormwater pond. The applicant at the time had proposed to mitigate the proposed impacts by placing the remaining uplands and wetlands into a conservation easement. So at the time, EPD reviewed the project in accordance with Chapter 15, Article 10, 15.362.5, 396.3A and B, which is the Class 1 and Class 2 wetland review criteria. At the hearing, Eric alluded to back in August of 2019, EPD did support the Class 1 and 2 impacts in the northern upland pocket, stating that they met the review criteria for minimization and avoidance, as well as reasonable use, and that the proposed mitigation was in the public interest. In regards to the stormwater pipe and access road, staff had determined that they had not met the minimization and avoidance criteria because of the lot count in the north upland island, which forced the stormwater to the south and the associated Class 1 impacts. Eric also mentioned that the applicant at the podium said that they would be willing to produce a new site plan, relocating the stormwater pond to the north and reducing the number of lots. So the board remanded the application, the CAI application, back to EPD to work with the applicant. So moving to today, there was a revised site plan that was submitted. The impacts in the northern pocket are staying the same, the Class 1 and Class 2. As mentioned, the big one is down here, the access road for the compensating storage pond. The acreage of impact on 1C, the lower southern impact, it's a permanent impact of 0.117 and a temporary impact of 0.17. They, during construction of the compensating storage area, they will impact a total of 0.34, but they will restore back 0.17. And there's a couple other big differences in the impact that I'll move through here in a second. So here's a representative photo. You can see that a good portion of the access road is actually going to be co-located with an existing Jeep road. And again, the applicant is proposing to place into a conservation easement the remaining wetlands and uplands on the property. So here's a little table, and basically what this represents are the significant changes, the lot reduction, the impacts to the wetlands in the north pocket stay the same. The big one, that the stormwater pond is being located to the northern upland pocket. The compensating storage pond access road, there are significant differences, whereas the original stormwater pond access road was elevated and stabilized, which would cause some impacts to the hydrology. This is a proposed at-grade access road, no hydrologic pattern interruption, and it's co-located with an existing Jeep road. There will be minimal maintenance, reduced human intrusion, and minimal disruption to wildlife. The only time that anyone will be going back into the compensating storage pond once it's constructed is in the case of an emergency, and they will be treating for nuisance and invasive species. One of the most significant benefits of this site plan revision is that the original crossing was in a very deep portion of that Class 1 wetland. This impact is to a higher elevation of the wetland, and of course, half the amount. So again, I've reviewed the review criteria that EPD reviews projects with, section 15.362.5, 396.3 A and B. And after review, pursuant to the sections identified earlier, EPD determined that the applicant was able to demonstrate that the proposed impacts to wetlands 1A, 1B, and 1C are a reasonable use of the land, and the project has been designed to minimize impacts to the Class 1 wetlands. The applicant has demonstrated that protection, preservation, and continuing viability of the Class 1 conservation areas is accomplished through the proposed mitigation. And finally, the proposed impacts to wetland 2 are unavoidable, and the mitigation is in the public interest. Therefore, we've evaluated the permit application and required documentation therein, and based upon the justifications and documentations provided by the applicant has demonstrated that the request is consistent with Chapter 15, Article 10, and meets Section 15.362.5, 396A and B. In an abundance of caution and to address any concerns that might arise from future amendments of the conservation easement, EPD is proposing to add this condition, which will clarify when amendments to the conservation easement will be allowed. I can go ahead and read that. Proposed condition 29, once recorded, the permittee shall be prohibited from amending the on-site conservation easement for the purposes of further developing the property for residential or commercial use, inconsistent with Section 704.06 Florida statutes. Amendments to the conservation easement may be requested of Orange County for the purposes of utilities, public roads, or other alterations for unforeseen and necessary infrastructure for the benefit of the public, lift stations, stormwater conveyance, as examples, and may be approved by the board on a case-by-case basis. The action requested is acceptance of the findings and recommendation of the Environmental Protection Division staff to approve the request for conservation area impact permit CAI 1704014 for DevelopCo LLC, subject to the 28 conditions listed in the staff report and proposed condition 29. This is in District 1. Thank you.
And now I'll just summarize all of the actions requested on the PD substantial change to the Lake Green neighborhood. The request is for approval subject to conditions and also approval of the adequate public facilities agreement that was pulled from consent. On the PSP, the DevelopCo Range Road PSP, the recommended action is for approval subject to the conditions from DRC and your staff report. As Liz just mentioned, on the CAI, approval subject to the conditions with the new condition number 29. And that concludes our presentation, and we're available for any questions.
Okay, thank you for that thorough presentation. I'm going to ask if there are any comments by the applicant if they're present.
Mayor, Kurt Ardeman is here on behalf of the applicant, Adam Smith, and has a presentation that he will give.
Just FYI, we have some feedback coming through somewhere, so before Mr. Ardeman starts, hopefully we can try to resolve the technical challenge.
There you go.
All right, Mr. Ardeman, let's try.
All right, Mayor, thank you very much. Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Kurt Ardeman. I'm with the Fishback Dominic Law Firm, 1947 Lee Road, Winter Park, Florida, 32789. I'm privileged here today to represent DevelopCo. I'm here with the expert team and the owner's representative, Mr. Tom Harb. After 5 years with community meetings, many staff meetings, and working and listening, we came before you all, the Board of County Commissioners, in August of last year, where the district commissioner and the commission unanimously gave further direction after that 5 years worth of processing and applications. However, before I get into the text of the presentation, Mayor and Commissioners, I've got to thank each of your departments for their suggestions, their direction, their good work to make this the best project it can be. We've had, as you can see from your staff report, a great number of meetings. It's really an amazing tribute to your staff that they were able to get through all of that with the difficulties and have done such a super job. Trying to move forward with my PowerPoint. Here we go. Here's the subject property where the little star is. It's outlined in light blue, and it's near the employee entrance to Walt Disney World, which you can see on the screen is the gray area down to the south. Here's a blow-up of the 307 acres that's owned by DevelopCo. The property is located in Horizon West in Lakeside Village, close to the employee entrance to Disney World. It's 307 gross acres. As staff mentioned, it was really proposed for 284 homes on parcel 23 and 25. But because of nearby residents' request and Commissioner Boyd at the time, we eliminated the homes and proposed stormwater pond on parcel 23, reduced the development at that time to 74 homes on only parcel 25, where that parcel abuts the intersection. Then at your commission hearing on August 20th, Commissioner Vanderlei, with unanimous approval of the County Commission, directed DevelopCo and the county staff to do three things. One, reduce the development program. Two, reconfigure the stormwater management program. And three, reduce the wetland impacts. Commissioner Vanderlei stated that it was to protect the property rights, property values, the quality of life, and the wetlands. Here's the history. Eric and your staff have already done a good job of laying that out. After the County Commission transmitted the comprehensive plan amendment back in July of 2015 and adopted the amendment in November of 2015, we went through the long process until we got to March of this year when the COVID hit and DRC heard recommended approval for the CDR and the PSP. Here's a copy of the land use plan. It shows in about the middle with the bubble plan where the homes will be located, parcel 25. You can see down to the south is parcel 23, which there will be no homes. There will be no stormwater pond. It will be used only for compensating storage. Here's a blow up of where the homes will be. This is a comprehensive plan policy where you as the County Commission had directed that the Reams Road corridor study occur, provides for the goal of establishing that corridor study area to achieve an overall minimum density in the village of 5 dwelling units per acre and to provide a residential transition zone within this largest greenbelt system. So what we've got before the Commission today is a reduction of the number of homes from 284 to 74, and then again today to 57. We've moved the stormwater pond to parcel 25. And excuse me 1 second. Can you move this? I can tell you this. It's blocking my view here. There we go. And converted parcel 23 to compensating storage. Conversion of parcel 23 from the stormwater pond to compensating storage provides a clean source of water and benefits the wildlife. There will be no stormwater runoff and heavy metals or oils that go to that. It will be pristine water. We also eliminated, as your staff indicated, the stormwater pipe crossing and minimize access to parcel 23. Move this further. Can you give me a little assistance here? There we go. Thank you. That's what you've seen before from your staff, the wetland impacts. We also have offered and provided here is the conservation easement on the on the property that goes to Orange County on the entire remaining portion of the 307 acres, gross acres, permanently protecting the wetlands. This is an express condition, not only, and I don't think the staff mentioned this in their presentation, but it is a condition, specific condition number 10 of the staff report for the conservation area impact permit, and we are agreeable to that additional condition 29 as proposed by EPD. Also, DevelopCo will deed to Orange County approximately 5 acres, 4.99 acres to be exact, of DevelopCo's property. We'll deed that to the county for the roads that are needed for the widening of Reams Road, which is in progress now. Something happened there. Staff recommendations, as you've heard, for land use compatibility. Staff finds that, quote, the PD's substantial change would not adversely impact any adjacent properties or result in an incompatible land use pattern. Your road agreement committee approved the APF agreement for the right-of-way dedication. Development Review Committee recommends the finding of consistency, recommends approval of the PD, LUP, and PSP, and your Environmental Protection Department finds that the conservation area impact permit is consistent with Orange County Code and recommends approval. Given all of that, the approvals will provide certainty for this 307 acres, permanently limit development over the entire property, limit the density and number of homes on parcel 25, while also achieving your comprehensive plan goals, objectives, and policies. We would request that you adopt your staff recommendations for approval as they've listed on the screen and as the staff has indicated. I've got to again say thank you to your staff. It's been a yeoman's effort on their part, a tremendous effort. I am proud that after 5 years in your direction, we were able to bring to you a final project to meet the concerns that you had, that the community has had, and the staff has had to make this the best project for this location that it can be. I would like to reserve any time I've got for any rebuttal comments, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Alderman. Mr. Boyce, are there any members of the public that wish to be heard on this item?
Yes, sir. We have Connor Adlam. He will have 4 minutes. The person donating time to him is Walker Adlam. He's approaching the podium now.
All right, Mr. Adlam, you're recognized.
50 Black Lake Boulevard in Winter Garden, Florida. I'm Communications and Public Policy Coordinator for NOAA's Notes, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. This parcel comprises a large section of the regional wildlife corridor within the Lake Reams watershed in West Orange County. Development thereof has the potential to significantly increase wildlife mortality. The biodiverse natural habitat on this site supports both resident and migrating wildlife, including a documented number of threatened and endangered species. The Florida black bear, sandhill crane, bald eagles, red cockaded woodpecker, gopher tortoise, and Florida panther. And I'd like to note that we've actually seen a Florida black bear in the area that is currently there. Our concern is the destruction of the upland habitat for the creation of a compensating stormwater pond behind Oasis Cove. This is one of the last remaining undisturbed uplands in Orange County. The loss of this vital upland habitat will be a death sentence for wildlife. It has the potential to drastically increase wildlife mortality on Reams Road that has already been at unacceptable levels for the past 5 years. We will soon address this issue with the public in our 2019 Reams Road mortality report. We urge you to adopt the environmental and public safety protections outlined in our statement of record as part of a conditional approval. These protections are placement of remaining land in this parcel into conservation, speed limit reductions on Reams Road from 45 to 35 in zone from the Church of Latter-day Saints to Floridian Parkway, and this is supported by the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. We want speed reduction devices placed between Greenbank Boulevard and Peachtree Park Court in area of highest mortality, highest wildlife mortality, and 2 additional wildlife crossing signs at secondary areas of highest wildlife mortality on east and west approaches of Reams Road. On top of that, we want 15-gallon tree replacement stock with a minimum of 3-inch caliper for restoration of the access corridor in lieu of 1-gallon stock. Adoption of these protections will have negligible financial impact on the applicant or the project timeline. It is the minimum acceptable in exchange for the community's and our organization's support. This fall, as a public service, NOAA's Notes will release an environmental report card of candidates for County Commission. Failure to adopt these protections may significantly impact the rating of those of you that are running for re-election. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Adlam, for your comment.
Mayor,
are there any other members of the public that wish to be heard?
There are no other members of the public that wish to be heard, but Kurt Arterman would like to rebut.
Okay. All right, Mr. Arterman, you recognize.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. I won't take much time. Respectfully, the wildlife corridor that is there is being protected by this conservation easement that will be in perpetuity. Your EPB folks have asked for an additional protection for that corridor, which we have agreed to. The certainty that will be provided by approving this will be the minimal impact to this property that has viable uplands for development into the future, and this will give certainty not only to the residents but to the county and to the owner. Protecting the wildlife corridor is being done. It has minimal impact. This project has minimal impact to the wildlife and to the wetlands. In fact, the compensating storage area, parcel 23, will provide a nesting area for sandhill cranes. So it actually enhances the ability to have certain wildlife. So we again respectfully request that you adopt and approve your staff's recommendations with the additional conditions. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, if there are no other members of the public that wish to be heard on this item, I'm going to close the public hearing at this time. And I'm going to go to the district commissioner. I know Commissioner Vanderlei has been working with the developer and others and neighbors in this regard. Commissioner Vanderlei, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I make a motion, I want to real quickly, we've been working very hard on this. Before I was in office, this request came in at 2015. There have been a total of 8 opportunities for public comments, including today. The original request was 284 homes. We're down to 57. There have been numerous improvements, interim improvements to the road, including flashing wildlife crossings, new traffic signals, and reductions in speed. Additionally, Orange County Public Works, I spoke with them yesterday, and they're committing to review the corridor to determine any further interim steps that might need to be taken, including possibly reducing the speed limit again. And if they are warranted, those improvements will be made, but they will have to be warranted. The road also is currently under design and will include stormwater improvements as well as permanent under-the-road wildlife crossings. The applicant is also donating right-of-way for the final road design, and almost 250 additional acres are going to be put into conservation with additional restrictions on whether that could come back for any future development. And the compensating storage on site will not only assist with the flooding issues in that particular area, but in that particular development, but also in the area at large. All that to say, the applicant has worked very hard for 5 years to reduce this program from 284 and significant impacts down to 57 and minimal impacts. And with all of that, and as hard as they've worked and as hard as staff worked, I need to thank them all for working so hard to add land to the conservation area and allow the private property owner use of their land as well. So having said all that, I will make a motion to approve all the requested actions with the addition of new condition number 29 to the CAI as well.
Second, Siplin.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. A motion by Vanderlei. I see Commissioner Bonilla wants to speak, so I'm just recognizing the motion and the second. We have a motion from Commissioner Vanderlei and a second by Commissioner Siplin. We do have indication from Commissioner Bonilla that she would like to speak on this item. So Commissioner Bonilla, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to say that we've been looking at this for quite a bit of time, and when it first came to us, it definitely was something that was not workable. But like Commissioner Vanderlei said, that we've worked really hard on this, staff has worked diligently, and I want to commend Commissioner Vanderlei too and all the work that she's done. This is definitely a project that is way better than it was before. And, you know, I'm an environmentalist and I wouldn't make any impacts that I didn't feel was necessary, but we do have to balance property rights with protecting our environment and our wildlife as well. And I believe that this is as best a compromise that we could get. I believe that, you know, again, staff and Commissioner Vanderlei did work really hard on getting this to where it is. And I know that it will bring more cars onto the road, so it will cause some more challenges, but I've talked with staff and they are working on this road and trying to make improvements. So I believe I want to thank the advocates, Noah's Notes, for all the advocacy they've been doing, because without that, we wouldn't be here where we are today as well. It always takes people to speak up and push the envelope so that we can get to a better deal on these types of cases. And I believe that we're there. We've done the best that we can. And that's, I just wanted to say that so that, you know, the advocates out there, they do feel slightly better about that. We have been working really hard, staff, Commissioner Vanderlei, and the other commissioners with staff. So I want to thank staff as well, and thank you, Commissioner Vanderlei, as well.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Bonilla. There's a motion by Commissioner Vanderlei and a second by Commissioner. And all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes and it is unanimous. And we'll move to the next item on